All right, everybody, we're going to get started in just a minute, so get settled in. There's a poll here. We'd love to know about what it is that you might be decorating for. There might be multiple things, but what is the thing that you most want to decorate for? Is it for a Sunday school class? Is it for Vacation Bible School? Is it for kids' church? That'll give us an idea once we finish up with the poll, what we're looking at when it comes to your needs, and Audrey and I here can kind of steer accordingly based on your answers. Welcome, Jillian. Hey, Jillian, glad you're on here. Looks like we've got Courtney and Andrea on here as well. You'll notice that there's a chat box. So throughout the presentation, any of you that have some comments or questions, please use the chat box. Let us know. Audrey and I may not be able to stop right away, but that's going to allow us to come back to those questions in an organized fashion. Right. So what we're going to do, the layout of today's presentation is we're going to start with showing you some examples of decorations, and she's going to go over how she actually put them together. Then we're going to go into talking about different places that she got inspirations for decorations, so that you can have ideas whether you're dealing with VBS or anything else, so that you can really jog your inspiration and imagination as well. Yes. The final part of what we're going to talk about is something that is pretty near and dear to my heart, and I think hopefully is near and dear to yours as well, because she did an incredible job. I mean, like, it was a massive set. There was so much that got done, and I feel like the secret sauce was she wasn't just incredible as an artist, which was already awesome, but she was able to leverage that and organize a team of a lot of people to be able to make just vines where I can't imagine if you made all those vines yourself, like
I couldn't have.
Yeah, we would have you would have started like 3 months before VBS, just like purely making vines, right? So,
and I will say we started a month before VBS actually started, so everyone did a great job. It really pulled together in a month.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely go into that. If you have questions around any of those areas, we'll stop between each of the segments and try to take a look at 1 or 2 questions before we move on to the next segment.
Definitely.
And we will end with just an overall Q&A of any types of questions that come up as the presentation is going on, if we didn't get to them between the little stops there. So that's the format. Those of you that are joining right now, welcome. There's a poll there. I'm going to give you just 1 more minute as we finish up with talking about some of these things to answer in the poll, and then we'll take a look at the poll results and we'll get rolling.
Yeah, sounds good.
So with that, while you guys are doing the poll, one of the things that we want to have as an objective here tonight is we're going to show you that there's actually a lot of great decorations that you can make with household items.
Yeah.
Everything, I was so excited about Audrey's creativity when it came to this, because this is stuff that's attainable for people. I think a lot of times different kidmins are intimidated by the idea of having to decorate, because it just seems like you have to have all these expensive foams and everything else. The foams are awesome, but that's not the only thing that you can do, right? There's so many creative ways to make decorations that really get kids to be wowed. So, that's the spirit of what we're doing today, and we will definitely love feedback on how you're finding it and how we're doing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the poll results. So closing out the poll. Poll results say...
VBS.
Okay, wow.
Awesome.
Okay, looks like...
That's what we're here talking about.
All right, looks like everybody was mainly interested in Vacation Bible School. So, okay, this is going to be fun. I'll still make some shout outs to different things that apply for Classroom and Kids Church, but this is perfect that, the main focus seems like it's going to be on Vacation Bible School today. So, all right, with that, let's rock. So, So Audrey, I'd love for you to start out and just, let's go over the different pieces of things that you've brought tonight.
Definitely.
And how you got there.
I'll talk about the flower first.
Okay.
This was one of my favorites. I found this off Pinterest, and it was actually the only pin I found. And if you'll notice, this is the top of a water bottle cut in half. It was very easy. anyone can do it. For those who are scared of getting their hands in paint and messing something up, you can't mess this up. Really, I had kids doing this project, and it was perfect for kids who wanted to help out. All you do, if you'll notice, I'll bend the petals back. It's a water bottle cut in half, and this is the top of the water bottle, and you can also use the second half. And what you do after you cut it, excuse me, after you cut it in half, you make slits in the water bottle, and you just bend the slits back, and it's really easy to bend. It's very pliable. There's some that are more bendable than others, but most water bottles are not a problem. I think we were even using Gatorade bottles, which is really cool. You get different shaped petals.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
I remember, like definitely had some weird boxy shapes to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can make as many petals as you want, cut as many slits as you want, and then all you do is you lay them flat on a tarp, and you take some spray paint and go to town. You make as much designs as you want. They're all different. I mean, they came out beautiful. They were so bright and colorful, and they really stood out from the vines that we actually made, and it really made the whole set. I really do attribute these to making the set really look like a jungle, because they look like tropical flowers. What we paired these with, thank you. What we paired the flowers with were these leaves on paper vines. I didn't bring a whole vine with me, but I'll tell you how I made the vine. These leaves are made out of simple cereal boxes. I mean, cracker boxes, anything that's of that thin cardboard material. It's very, I mean, you can get it anywhere. I mean, I had people just handing me recyclables from their house. And what we did is I just had people cut out leaf patterns, and they don't have to be perfect. None of these were the same size. They were all different, which adds to the set. I mean, if you think about it, there's no leaf that's going to be exactly the same. And then I had people go back and paint them, and you'll notice one side's different. So the lighter side we used facing up, and then just for cosmetic reasons, we painted the back, because I don't think you want cereal cartoons on the back showing for your leaf. And then we would pair that with the flower on the vine. And the vine was paper for packing or moving. We got this from a moving company, and I think we actually got lucky and found some around the church. And what we did is we took the sheets and just twisted them, crinkled them, and then we glued them end to end. Mm-hmm. And then in each crevice and crack, we painted in the darker browns and highlights and made it look like a vine, and it looked amazing. And I'm sure you'll see it in the slides as well that we'll show later. Another one, I brought
stop
this.
Here for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, something she said that I think is really worth pointing out is when we were looking at all the flowers that people made, you'll take a look here, there's like this kind of cool fade. But what's neat is because she involved so many people, there were so many different styles.
Oh, yeah,
some people wanted to have like dots,
yeah.
right? Like it's like the dot ones were really fun.
Yeah.
There were some ones that looked really exotic. But let me ask you this. How did you originally do this? Did you kind of spray paint? Is this spray paint that's got the like main layer? And then you went,
So we had, I think, 10 different colored paints, and all spray paint. Use spray paint for these. It's much easier. It goes by a lot faster.
Uh-huh.
And you would put down a base coat, and you'll notice the base coat is a blue. And I tried to stick with neon colors. That really makes them pop. And then the center, after the blue dried, and I don't even think we waited till it dried completely. We just sprayed the center with a neon purple color, and then just very quickly sprayed the middle, and you got the center fade, as he said. Mm-hmm. Very easy. Anyone can do it, really.
And the other thing was with the cereal box, as you can see here, you can see some of it actually peel off much later. Now, after the aftermath of Vacation Bible School, we had to move things around so many times. But yeah, it's like, it's just so incredible how if you just leverage being organized, people will be able to help with those things, which definitely. I think is so cool, right? Like, it's like another thing I wanted to point out that I thought was really important about what you said is looking for things where you might actually be able to get donations, right? Like for example, with the the packing material.
Yes.
We happen to have that, but that piggybacks into another big thing, which is a lot of times people think you have to have foam because, like, if you use the group VBS, they are big on like those big old foam boards. Yeah. But, we've also found that the foam is totally awesome. It is so cool. But, don't be hating on cardboard. Quality cardboard. Yeah. And what's cool is you might find moving companies or other places or especially appliance stores that have huge boxes. If you ask them, they'll probably give you big old huge free cardboard. Because remember for Sky VBS, we had those like big huge clouds. Yes. And we also made like a big airplane. It was literally like the body of an airplane. And the whole thing was made out of cardboard and PVC. If we tried to make that out of foam,
a long time,
we'd still be paying for the plane right now. It's like we might as well have flown somewhere with the amount of money it costs for that, right?
Yeah.
So, I just want to point that out because I thought you had a lot of ingenuity in the way that you had those materials that you found there.
Yeah, I will say for cardboard, one of the biggest helps if you're looking for boxes that are very tall are refrigerator boxes. Last year for Kingdom Rock, we made the castle structure out of refrigerator boxes, and I thought that was very cool. I mean, it saves you a lot of time taping and stacking all the boxes to get them to that certain height. And I think the refrigerator boxes, they only had to stack them once to get them to that height. So it worked out perfectly. I brought these. I didn't bring the ones that were twisted, which are really fun. But in the slides, do you mind going to the pictures?
Yeah, sure.
I'll show you the flowers. And I don't know if you uploaded one of the pictures, but it has one of the little girls playing with these. And I thought it was so cool. Let's go. Oh, go back. So right here, if you look at the picture on the right, you'll see the center of the flowers. And what these are the pipe cleaners. And these were so fun. I loved these. I almost wanted to take one home. It looked so cool. And I had so many people actually ask me, oh, what is this going to be for? Because we hadn't made the center with the petals. We glued that on after the fact. And what we did is I bought these pipe cleaners from, I believe, Party City. And they come in all different kinds of fun colors. And all you do is you twist the pipe cleaners around a pencil, your finger, something very small and round. And what you do is you stick them in the center of the flower. And they just give the flowers this really cool, funky style. And the kids love them. I actually was walking around during VBS, and the kids were not out for practice yet. And I actually found one of the little girls just amazed by the pipe cleaners, and she was a baby, but she kept wanting to touch it. She kept wanting to feel it. She kept staring at it, and I thought that was amazing because that's what it was all about. Is I wanted to capture their attention and make it larger than life, because that's what's really fun about VBS. You can exaggerate and make things dramatic, and the kids will love that. So that was one of the really big decorating things that we did for the props, is the flowers. If you want to go to the water room, I'll show you guys. Oh, you know what? I didn't get a picture of outside. But in here, the water room, you'll see the octopus way in the back, and you'll see some jellyfish hanging. This was probably one of the projects where we had to really think outside the box and try to get it to look, realistic, but also fun. You'll see that the jellyfish are not going to be all clear. Some are pink, some are blue, some are orange. And the octopus and the jellyfish too are all paper lanterns. And the center of the jellyfish is all bubble packing wrap. And I can show you if you want to get the octopus.
Okay, let me go ahead and
transfer back to video. Up close.
So
our octopus friend. So this one I think, became the mascot of this year's VBS. So you'll see it's a paper lantern, and it still has the metal piece in it. The jellyfish we actually cut in half, so we were able to make 2 jellyfish out of one. And I think we kind of should have left them as one, because they kind of they don't keep their round shape as well. But with the octopus, we took the bubble packing wrap for the legs, and what I did was I put the floral wire that you use for making floral arrangements. I cut long strips about the length of what I wanted the legs, and what I did was I cut the bubble wrap into triangle shapes where I angled it off so that as I started rolling it, it would get thinner at the end and it would stay thick at the base of the body. And what that did was it created a very realistic tentacle for the octopus, and that also made the legs pliable. So what I can do, if you don't mind holding this,
yeah, sure,
is you can bend the legs and make it look like the legs are actually moving or floating, and that created a really cool effect in the room. And what we did after is, you'll see, we took fishing wire and hung each leg individually at different lengths and heights and made the octopus really look like it was moving, and it was really cool.
Yeah. As
and
you
all
can
you
see,
do,
it's very flexible and
yeah,
it has a lot of life to it.
And these I think I bought from Party City as well, the eyes. You can probably get them anywhere, and then we just glued around. Yeah, it's an octopus.
I have to say, this one is definitely my favorite, I think, of all really the decorations this year.
The kids even, I think, liked this more than anything.
Now, I really like what you did with this jellyfish, too. You know, even though you were saying it's like, maybe you shouldn't have, cut it in half. But I actually really, I think it's kind of cool because I think real jellyfish are kind of flat like this.
Yeah, they are.
Really. And again, here, just looking at the materials you use for this, looking at this from here, it doesn't look cheap. But what's great about that is, like, this is
tissue paper.
Okay, this is tissue paper right here. Right, so it's just tissue paper and more of this bubble wrap. So you are the queen of bubble wrap. You did some really creative things with this. This is great. So it's okay. How did you? Oh, yeah. Explain how you attach this here to have that effect.
The center of the jellyfish, you'll see. The two metal pieces at the top, I think, are used for the metal piece that stays in the lantern if you were to keep it in its round shape, which I did for the octopus. But because we didn't, we utilized those metal holes and actually strung fishing wire from side to side to create a piece going across. And we used that piece going across to glue these pieces in the middle so that they hung from the center and make it as realistic as possible. Because a lot, you'll find, if you look this on Pinterest, you'll find that these center pieces were mainly glued at the very edge of the jellyfish. And it didn't look very realistic. It still gave that jellyfish effect, but we wanted it to be right in the center.
That's awesome.
Which makes it, look real.
Yeah,
in
totally.
a fake form.
Yeah.
So those are really fun to make. Yeah. And very easy.
That's
so a
awesome.
lot of hot glue. For all of those projects so far, you're looking at a lot of hot glue, even for the gluing the leaves to the flowers and then the flowers to the vines. A lot of hot glue and glue guns. The other one that we made for the water room, this was really simple. I would advise to cut these. You need to get very sharp X-Acto knives, and probably not X-Acto knives, sorry, more of the box cutters, and make sure they're very sharp, or otherwise you'll be doing this for a long time. This took me about a good hour to cut all of them and to not cut my hand at the same time, because it does get a bit challenging because it's so round and you're twisting this as you're cutting along the lines. So what if this is a I don't know what you call these, a pool noodle.
Yeah, they're pool noodles.
Yeah. And I got this from the dollar store, which was perfect. If you're doing your VBS in the summer, things like this were going on sale and they were on clearance, which was great. So I was able to buy a whole bucket full of these. And what you do is, as you're twisting the noodle, you just make a not horizontal, more of a diagonal line going down the noodle. And as you keep twisting it, go down the noodle all the way to the opposite end, and then go back with the knife and twist it carefully and cut along that line. And what you'll get is two pieces now of the noodle. And you can twist these around handrails. You can put them on the wall and they just add a really fun effect to the water room that we had. It was really cool. And we had them going up the handrail to that room, so the kids were actually able to touch them and mess with them going up to the room.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to mention that if you didn't, because I thought that added a real nice touch to the fact that, I felt like in previous VBSs, sometimes the decorations were so pretty we were scared people would touch them, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And, in our discussions, that was something that we were thinking about, that like kids love touching stuff, right? Like they're always touching stuff. So you made a lot of these decorations robust enough that it was okay for a kid to actually touch them. Right. So this was cool. Like we definitely had this wrapped all around those stairwells and everything, and it just looked so neat and crazy. I think a word that you've used, which should really be a theme, I think, when it comes to decorating, whether it's for VBS or classrooms or anything else, is big.
Yeah.
Like kids just
so
like
dramatic.
Like big, dramatic, zany things. And with that, I know I've seen different discussions on forums that I'm on where people want to know, it's especially if you're a teacher and you're trying to decorate for your classroom, should you decorate every single quarter? Should you completely redecorate every single quarter? So I'm going to chime in with my thoughts on that. I think if you put a lot of heart into it, and like with some of the stuff we're about to talk about with volunteers and everything, and you get it done great and it's awesome, why do you have to do it every season? It's really not that big a deal. Like it's like if it sets the right atmosphere, then you can kind of focus on pouring your time into other things. If that's your bag and you really love doing that, and that energizes you, then have at, like, go for it, right? But I also feel like a lot of people feel very guilty because this is not their strength. But with the tips that you've given so far, if teachers or anyone else or, kids church people, if you partner with somebody who can take some of these things that Audrey is saying, and then you guys team up and pull together a team, you're going to have yourself one awesome looking kids church, one awesome looking classroom, or for sure one awesome looking VBS. And, and be able to really live with that for a while. Right. So, I just want to throw that out there because I did see in a forum recently, somebody talking about it. It's like, like, do we have to decorate every single quarter? Do you guys all decorate every single quarter? And I understand that kind of guilt there. So just throwing that out
I will
there.
say something I thought of when you were talking about people who are kind of hesitant about decorating so often. Some of these decorations are so dramatic, I'll use that word again, or so very fun and big that you can put maybe one octopus in a corner and maybe a few jellyfish in another, using those as an example, and leave it at that. I mean, it's so eye-catching for kids that I don't want you to feel like you have to decorate every little corner and every little crevice with all these things, because it's almost like you can use less and get the same effect for the kids. I mean, they're really not going to pay attention to every detail. And I had to remind myself that I was worried more about the details than the kids were. And I mean, when they come into the water room, they're going to see those big items. They're not going to look at if the tape's falling somewhere or if there's a hole somewhere. They're going to look at these big props, and that's going to catch their attention and really draw them in. And you don't have to worry so much about every little thing being covered and decorated. So that was just something I wanted to throw in. So if you use less but make them really big and dramatic, you can probably keep them there for a while, and the kids will still come back every time wanting to touch it. Can't stop talking about it. They love it, So
I'm going to say it another way. Let your motivation, let what drives you be to earn kids' smiles and giggles, as opposed to fearing, adults' eyebrows, right? Like the eyebrow of why is that tape there and why does this look like that? Because it's not for the adults. It's for the kids, right? Like I know working with different decorating teams and stuff like that sometimes that's something you can fall into. So, like, I think that's perfect what you said, Audrey. Like the kids, their imagination's already on fire. Like anything like this is going to totally take it to the next level. So, okay. Anything else you want to show them?
This is kind of fun. It's,
kind
of cut roughly, but the whole theme last year was really rough and rugged. It was Kingdom Rock, very medieval, kind of royal in a sense.
Mhm.
But these, if you look, are the caps on your rotisserie chicken at Safeway. And I saw somebody, I think it was Kelly Johnson, they picked this up from, what's that store for teachers?
Oh, yeah, Raft.
Raft.
Resource area for teachers. I don't know if that's a California thing, but...
I don't know. You should look at one if you have one. There was a whole stack of these, and I think you can see one was a little smaller than the other. And we cut the top of it out, and then we layered the second one in and cut just a little bit out. And what we did was we stuck them on the wall like this. I don't know if you can see that. And then we had little candles sitting in them, and it was really cool. They looked like little sconces with candles lit in them. It just made the whole effect. It was awesome.
Yeah, so, you know, a little closer for everybody. As you can see, they're seriously turkey covers, right?
Yeah, spray paint gold. I mean,
but it was so
paint.
funny. Like, the way that they looked on the walls was great, and that actually segues into another thing. One of the things that while Audrey and I were talking in prep for this was something we didn't bring tonight, but we can describe to you is something else that was fun was chandeliers. We made these really cool looking medieval chandeliers. So I'm going to tie some of this stuff into, you know, those of you that use the Word of Flame Power Hour curriculum. There's 2 different curriculums that are seed-based. So a lot of these things that you see here, they'd be perfect for that. Remember, I did diving for treasure, and that was a really fun one, and this would have been perfect for it. There's another one that's definitely medieval-based. So this idea works perfect for it. But if you wanted to do something dramatic, like we were talking about before, you'd be surprised. What you would need is get yourself a hula hoop, maybe multiple hula hoops so you can make multiple chandeliers. Hula hoops, some, you know, like simple corded rope from Home Depot, and then just toilet paper rolls. So maybe we can send out a picture after or post something on the website, but it's crazy. If you just paint the hula hoop black and then you go ahead and hot glue the toilet paper rolls around the hula hoop, I'm sure in your minds you can almost already see the chandelier. It's crazy how good it looked.
I mean, they even took, I think, hot glue and like drizzled it down the sides of the toilet paper rolls, and it looked like they were melting wax. It was just
so it
was
fun.
So cool. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Well, you know, I'm hoping that as we're talking about these things, you're starting to get some ideas as well. And maybe if there's some cool things that you want to share too, pop them into the chat box, and we'll be happy to give a shout out to them. There's one other thing that I just recently saw on one of the forums that I thought I'd mention. It was so funny. There's one of the curriculums where it's, you know, like really naturey, and there's like bugs and spiders and all this other stuff. And I saw some lady make this thing that looked like the coolest like worm, like an earthworm. So what she did was she took a what is that?
Slinky?
No, ladies use it to like, it's like
nylons?
Stockings. Yeah, nylons. Okay, nylons. Okay, I don't wear nylons, so I didn't come to my mind. Okay, so she used nylons, right? And she stuffed the nylons with foam, like, you know, like
cool.
teddy bear foam.
Yeah.
And then she used elastics, right, to make like the bulges of the worm, and then popped on eyes onto the front of the thing.
How cute.
Yeah, and then like, you know, she just covered the top part of it with like construction paper or other things like that. But it just looked like this worm that was like dangling down in the room, right? It was hilarious. So, you know, like stuff like that is a lot easier than you might think. And it looked so cool. It looked great. I totally wanted to get to, you know, like see like what it'd be like to actually like, you know, like play with that and this spider that they had made with, I think it was like balloons and other things like, you know, so it should definitely be something that gives kids that feel, right? Where they walk in and they're like, this place is fun.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So did you want to show the butterfly?
Yeah, this was something I brought Excuse the missing wing. I thought I was grabbing both. But this one, I can show you in the photos. I found these at a store called World Market Cost Plus. They were made in some foreign country, and they just looked beautiful hanging in the vines above the stations. Uh-huh. I also found some kites at Toys R Us. Again, if your VBS is during the summer, things like this are just going to be easy to find. And actually, I think it was going into kind of the school season, and people were putting all their kites on sale. So it worked out perfectly. This we hung. You'll see that we had to build them. It has a certain wood structure in the back. And then what we did was we hung them above the stations like so. Mm-hmm. And it looked like they were flying in midair above the stations. And it looked so cool. And I mean, again, don't be afraid to go dramatic. I mean, this isn't a real life butterfly. I mean, butterflies are usually not this big, but think about it. 5-year-old, 6-year-old, to them, this is going to be larger than life. And again, like what James Wang said, is play with their imagination. They already have a big imagination as it is. Yeah. And seeing this for them flying above their heads is going to look so cool. I mean, I loved it. If you don't mind going to the photos, I can show them
let's go to those
what it looked like.
Here we go. So anything else you want to point out?
Well, here for the same effect, I mean, you can see we took streamers.
Oh, yeah.
And
all
also
along the top there in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. And you can see some fish hanging. We bought those from Party City as well. And we just hung everything by fishing wire. So it looked like everything was floating.
Oh, that's cool.
And we hung everything low. If you'll notice, Christian's about to hit his head on stuff because he's so tall. And I myself, but again, things that you're hanging from the ceiling, try to make them, go a little low, not too low, but low enough that when the kids walk in, it almost feels like they're going to be able to touch it with their hands. It just gives a really cool effect. Mm-hmm. I think that's all I have there.
Okay. The waterfall.
Yes. This was the main piece for the whole entire set. This went in the center of the platform for the main event. This is all styrofoam. And was actually quite a task, I'll have to say. Each ridge in the waterfall are stacked boxes and is styrofoam glued to these boxes, so we get that ridge look. And I'll say the main thing that you'll ever need in the future for VBS is to get a hot knife, and you'll need this to cut into the foam.
Yeah.
It's a lot safer. It's a lot easier on the hands, and it saves you a lot of time. I mean, if you try to cut all these grooves,
how much does one cost?
They can cost anywhere from, I think, $20 to $60. I mean, if you want to get a really high-end one, it'll probably be more than that, but they're really not that expensive, and it's a good investment.
Yeah, really that's the big thing. I mean, like, every single year. How long have we been doing VBS? Gosh, like at least what, like
4 years.
Well, actually
5. No, 7.
Yeah. 7 years. So, I was like trying to think that. Yeah, about 7 years now. So every single year we've had to use that foam. Even if it was like a $60 hot knife.
Yeah.
It's like $10 a year, less than that, right? So if you're planning on doing VBSs for a while, you're always going to need that. So that is definitely something we encourage you to check out. So
that's what we made the grooves out of the waterfall with, and it added so much character to the set. I mean, from far away it looked like real rock. It just it made it look awesome. And even if you need to cut down foam pieces to get into, you'll see some very small areas, we had to cut large pieces down, and we needed the hot knife. I mean, you couldn't have cut 2-inch thick foam with a boxing knife. It just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you can do anything in life if you're really that dedicated to it, but it's worth the $60.
Time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do a big sale or something. Get the hot knife.
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't know if you were going to talk about this, but I think something important to consider is if you're going to go big, always remember that depending where you're putting it, you might have to move it. So
Oh,
it better
yes.
be able to come apart,
Oh, I
right?
should
So this was
mention
multiple
that.
pieces, right?
Yes, the waterfall was, I believe, 4 or 2 pieces
Yeah.
just to put together. And that's because we needed to remember that this was going to have to be moved into the sanctuary. And I think the tallest doors into the church were 8-foot tall doors.
Yeah.
And they were not very wide. And these were the doors that you had to kind of prop open. So you did have to leave yourself some space. And you'll notice, you'd have to look really hard, but underneath the cellophane, there are 2 foam pieces, and then the rock parts are 2 other pieces of foam connected to the center. And this actually came apart in halves and allowed us to carry it into the church and then put it back together again for the main performance. So that is one of the biggest things you need to consider is if you're going to have the practice area in a different area, make sure all your props are able to be disassembled and reassembled for the main event. That's one of the biggest, I think, things we have to consider every year for us.
Yeah, for sure. And, just thinking about from a kids' church perspective, when I was doing the diving for treasure, every single month, we don't have a dedicated kids' church room. So we have to set up and tear down. So it was critical that we made all of the props able to be, torn apart, move through to different rooms and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised for many of you may have very similar situations to this. So whether it's Vacation Bible School and you are like for us here, this is in the gym. And during the week, we used the sets and everything else in the gym. And then for the Sunday performance, when all the parents showed up to see the kids sing, all of this had to be moved on a Saturday.
Right.
And so the more modular you make everything and the easier it is to take apart and assemble, the more confidence people are going to have in volunteering to help you to get it done.
Yeah.
And the quicker everybody's going to be able to get in there, get it done, and go home.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to throw that out there just in case you thought it was one giant thing, which it isn't.
No.
So it's all...
No, thank God.
Yeah.
It was very heavy. I also want to point out that you'll see, if you look at past VBS for... what was this thing called? Oh, wild animals. A lot of the sets had the waterfall half this size. The reason why we doubled it was we didn't have some of the decorating supplies as others did. The main, I think it was with group, they had this fabric going across the back, and they only had the waterfall half this size. And what we did was we made it this size specifically to cover the musician's pit on our platform, because we wanted to kind of hide that, and we wanted the focus to be on the kids and the set and not this kind of awkward area on the platform. And it's right in the center. So we thought
everybody's staring at the drummer, right?
Yeah. So we figured we'll make this double its size and it will go right across the musician's pit. And we built it so that when we set it up, it looks exactly how it is in this picture. So we had the platform in mind when we were doing the decoration. So please, that'll make everything a lot easier for you and your team. Like what James said, it will make everyone a lot more ready to help you, because it's very easy to assemble and reassemble if need be. And what would be easier for you too is if the practice area is in a different room, set the props up like you're going to do it on the platform, and that will give you a better sense of how everything's going to look. If you need to add stuff or you need to take away, and it will help you get a better perspective of what it's going to look like and really make it easier for the team so they know exactly where everything's placed.
So in recap, make it modular and begin with the end in mind. I think that's super key, Audrey. Okay, awesome. So this one, I thought this was so fun what you did. So how did you make those elephant prints on the floor?
The elephant prints were the cabinet, I don't even know what you call it.
Contact paper.
Yes.
Okay.
It's contact paper that you layer your cabinets with. I looked up on the internet, just random elephant footprints, and I printed them out, had them on transparency. And I can't remember if I projected them or if I even traced them off the printed sheet. And I drew those designs on the contact paper, and then I had people cut them out. It's very, very cool. I wish we could do this every year if the theme permits. It just looked so cool.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ruin the floor, so there's no worry about that. And all you do is you stick it right on the floor, and it lasted the whole VBS. No one tripped.
Yeah, totally.
They didn't get ruined. I mean, they got a little dirty, but that's going to happen. But what was key was it wasn't going to come up off the floor, and you'd have to worry about people tripping over it or getting stuck on someone's shoe. It lasted. It looked so cool, and it gave such a very cool effect. And I wanted to use that because the direction that the kids were coming in from, they were coming from the fellowship hall or the hallway. And if they were coming in this direction, I think the first place they went to was that area. And I wanted to kind of give the kids, you know, this fun kind of follow me into this area feel. And even if you go into stores or I think even, you know, doctor's offises for kids will have things like this on the floor, and it will make them want to walk in that direction. They'll want to follow it and see where it leads them. So it kind of brought them into this eating area where it was more of a safari theme, which is why we use the elephant footprints. And I think there's a picture in there where it shows a lion. And then we had some lion footprints coming from the other stations into the safari area. It just added a whole cool feel to it. I just loved it.
So there's a couple things that I want to point out in this picture here that I think are really important. So you'll notice that there's really cool boxes that were made there. So the history of that is those were actually made, I think, about 5 years ago. And that was when we had the High Seas theme, which was a nautical theme, kind of like the Diving for Treasure. And I think the other Word of Flame curriculum that's a Kids Power Hour is called the Friendship. Right. So, you know, if you're using any of those, that type of stuff might be what you might make. So those are cardboard. Those are boxes with cardboard covering over them, like cut into slats and then painted like so. Right. So the reason I want to point this out is because next to that, you'll see that there's those tubes, those different like pylon looking things next to the big vine pillars, tree things. OK, those were made 6 years ago. The reason I'm pointing all this out is because, you know, every time you invest into VBS, you're going to be surprised how reusable a lot of this stuff is. Right. So, you know, by a few years into it, you're going to find so much of this stuff is reusable that people are going to wonder, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you decorate like this? And now, granted, you know, Audrey did still do an insane amount of work. But what's cool is that, you know, I know we're going to be able to find ways to keep leveraging this stuff, right? Like you can use it for kids' church. You could use it like some of the decoration from prior years of VBS. Teachers asked later, would you mind if I used it in my classroom, right? Like how we decorated some of the games areas and stuff like that. So all the effort that you pour into it, can definitely still be used somewhere else. Absolutely.
And these things that he's pointing out, we didn't change one bit. We kept them in their original form, which is perfect. That saved us so much time. And it ties really in with what we were trying to pull off there. It worked out perfectly.
So, I mean, like on the most part, there's like only a handful of types of themes that I really see, you know, ones that are very like animal, wildlife, jungly, ones that are very nautical, ones that are, you know, more medieval, and then something else that's more modern day. So like we did one called Power Lab, which was, you know, more like beakers and all that other stuff, mad scientist things and things like that. Right. But easily a lot of the things that you would make for that, you could also use for like the Sacred Chow curriculum or other stuff like that from Word of Flame. So just throwing some of those ideas out. Something else I want to point out is also, you'll notice there's that blue monkey there. So Audrey, that's made out of cardboard.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It is. It's out of cardboard. And I forget where it was bought. I think one of the helpers happened to find it and just bought it on a whim and thought that it would be really cool to use, and they were. And again, it's something that the kids could touch and play with. I'm sure they were played with throughout the whole week. And then you could easily put them back where they were.
The eyes. Aren't those bottle caps?
Yes, the eyes are bottle caps. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So again, this is all stuff that you probably already have in your house, right? Like, so those bottle caps, it blows my mind even looking at it now. It's like, wow, that really came out really great, but it was just bottle caps, you know, with some black paint on them. And so, trying trying to think if there's anything else I want to give a quick shout out for. Well, how about that big old lion medallion thing?
Yeah, the lion, and you'll notice way in the back there's a zebra head and a giraffe, and I think we had an elephant. All of those were found on Google, and they were all projected onto these foam pieces that we used.
Oh, excellent.
And again, they're foam, very light. And all we did was, I think for the zebra and the giraffe, they were even drawn on there with Sharpie, and I kept it black and white on purpose because it would save the workers less time. They didn't have to worry about the colors and whatnot. The lion, I think, was gold and black, neutral colors, and the lion was painted, but I believe all the other animals were just Sharpie. So it made it very easy for everyone to do. Yeah,
and something that's coming to my mind here is I don't want people who are, thinking, well, I don't come from a large church. Revival in my church is if 30 people are there, right? If that you feel like that's you, I grew up in that. Literally, if on Easter, we were like, wow, we had 45 people, revival, right? This is insane. And otherwise, it was just a handful of families. That's okay. Everything that we're describing here, you don't need an army. Right. What we want is to be able to help you understand that whether you're talking about, 3 or 4 people helping you or 30 people helping you, a lot of the mechanics are actually the same, right? In how you plan and think out on that type of scale. So we're actually going to be moving to that in a minute. But one other thing to point out that segues into that is you'll notice that there's those pillar things there, that are those trees as they walk in. And those are those vines. Notice those green vines that are kind of crawling up the tree. Those are what she was describing before. All that is, you're saying, is just like packing paper, right? Yes,
and the packing paper is the tree itself also. The trees are just random pillars we've had at the church since, no kidding, since I was probably a little girl. And I figured they're never used. We might as well utilize them. And I had people gluing packing paper on these pillars. The pillars themselves were very light, which was great because we can move them around. And it gave a really cool texture to these trees. I mean, they looked like a tree. And I loved how there was texture to them and the kids could, again, touch it and feel it and really get close to it, and we not have to worry about it getting ruined.
So some ideas on it's like, okay, well, where am I going to get pillars? Where am I going to get some of these other materials? Notice the stuff that's on the top there. That's butcher paper, right?
Yes.
So that's just butcher paper cut out. And you'll notice that she also added some extra details, or whoever she had working on that, added just some extra fun details with some paint just to give it some texture. Now, something else that's important is you'll notice with those things that we mentioned from like 6 years ago, that are those, it looks like almost like dock posts, right?
Yeah.
So those are carpet tubes cut to different heights. We've used carpet tubes to make stuff like that, to make fence posts. We've used it for all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We've used it to make parts for like ships and other things like that. So carpet tubes, check out carpet tubes. There's all kinds of things you can do. I've seen us use them for like, when we were teaching about Joseph, it's like we used the carpet tubes to kind of build a throne one time in one of the classrooms. Yeah. So it's like carpet tubes are super versatile, but they're very strong, yet you can cut them.
Yeah. They last a long time.
Yeah. So, if you don't know what to build with, I think butcher paper, carpet tubes, PVC, and like other types of paper, you're rocking, in cardboard. I'll move on to this one.
Sure.
Oh yeah. So we could just maybe point out like the grass. I thought the grass was very, very cool here. So maybe you can just tell people quickly like how you constructed the grass.
So you'll see on the picture on the right, below the blue flower, it's sitting on the base of the grass. These are boxes we used, and I believe we taped them together, and these were very long, thin boxes. Oh, yeah. I don't even know the dimensions. We did have to specifically try to find these boxes only because of where we were putting them on the platform. We didn't want them to come out too far. We wanted to keep them very narrow. And what we did with the grass itself was we cut long pieces of cardboard into just this was not made perfect on purpose. I wanted the workers to feel like they can do it and not feel like they were going to mess it up. None of the grass pieces look the same. They're just jagged edges, and then we would layer them. So you'll see it, the one way in the back, it has a front piece and a back piece. Mm-hmm. The back piece is taller than the front, and in between those pieces, we just used foam. And
I was wondering how you got that 3D look. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We just glued foam in between and kind of gave it that 3D look. And also with these jagged edges, we bent them, and whatever pieces we bent forward to kind of make it look like the grass was falling forward, we painted the back of them so you didn't see the brown cardboard. Mm-hmm. But it gave a really cool tall grass appeal. Uh-huh. And then also I will point out, for any foam you're going to use, anything you're going to glue to the foam like we did with the grass, you need to get a glue called Great Stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Great Stuff we went through that, I don't know how many times. I don't know how many cans we went through. It was so much. Yeah. You need that for the foam. Any type of glue you try to glue to the foam, whether it be hot glue or something else,
it's just so versatile. It is so versatile.
It's going to just melt the foam, and you don't want that. So the Great Stuff is made just for the foam, and it works perfectly.
Yeah, it's because Great Stuff is a foam. It's incredible. You know, like its purpose is supposed to be if you're like drilling a hole or something in a wall, like you just pop some of that stuff in there and it expands to fill whatever it needs to. But it has become so versatile for all the different crazy things that we build. Like those trees, we use Great Stuff to hold like those tree trunks up, right?
Right.
And a lot of that other stuff. So yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Great Stuff. If you've never used it before, write it down, check it out, go to Home Depot, ask them for it. They'll definitely be able to show you where it's at. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, this was, I think, my favorite part of the whole event. This, I will point out, is where this part was kind of like my baby, because I got, writer's block. I got design block on this setup because we every year try to come up with creative ways of dividing each station, and we in times past have used fabric, and fabric can become very expensive. And it was getting down to the wire, and I think it was even the week before the event or even the week of, and it was just getting to that point where I was about to have a nervous breakdown because we still did not have the dividers covered. And I happened to be spray painting, I think, the leaves. You'll see that the first divider has that leaf pattern. And we were spray painting the backs of the leaves, and it created this pattern on plastic that we covered the tables with. And I looked at it and I thought, that made such a very cool design. And you'll see in the next photo, the two front dividers were the same thing. Mm-hmm. What we did with each divider was we created stencils and cut them out. This was very, very time consuming. I wouldn't recommend doing it last minute. It was very stressful on my part and the person helping me. But if you have the time and you have ideas like this, do it first. Yeah. That way it's done and you don't have to stress about it the week before. But what it did was it created this very cool feel of the jungle, and each divider had a different stencil and a different color. Yeah. So it made each station feel like it was its own station and not one of them looked the same. Mm-hmm. So that was something very cool to do. I will point out each divider is out of plastic. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what kind of plastic, but it was more of the plastic you laid down for tarps if you're painting.
It's a very light plastic. So like you said, it's some type of painting tarp, but it's not like those thick, like bluish tarps typically. It's a very light, thin painter's tarp.
I mean, if you didn't want the transparent look, I'm sure you can do regular painting tarps. It would just be a lot heavier. Yeah. And I would recommend using something other than PVC pipe to hold it up if you're doing something other than plastic.
No, light is good. Yes. Light is good. We highly recommend that. So here, I think this is cool. This shows exactly how you stenciled it.
So this was just random pieces of cardboard boxes, and I took the pieces and cut random designs out of each one. And I would make mirror images of it, and it would create this very fun pattern. And the one on the right, you'll see, if you look carefully, has the face of a tiger or a lion. And that was when the person helping me and myself realized we could really go far with this design stuff. Like, it looked very cool. It just looked so cool.
Yeah.
And those are things that kids will notice, whether or not an adult notices it. You know, again, it's not about the adults and what they'll see. They're the holes in the walls or the tears in the plastic. The kids will walk into these stations and see these designs, and it will just appeal to their eye, and it will make it more fun for them, and it will get them thinking, oh, what does this look like? You know, the blue looks like water, and the green looks like a tiger hiding in the grass, you know, very things that will jump out at them and make them want to stay and look and be intrigued.
Yeah. And I wish we could nerd out about like the whole like VBS logistics all night, but like we'll keep it to really the decoration stuff. But something I want to point out that I thought was really good here is she mentioned about spaces, that this created spaces, right? And like there were dividers and spaces. And I feel like that's actually a very important part of a great running VBS, that you try to find ways to create spaces where there's some type of coziness to it. Because if you can create places where kids and adults can have quality interactions, you know, because you're teaching them all kinds of cool stuff during VBS, they need the time to actually connect and process that stuff and learn and everything. Like, we had a whole bunch of stations where there were adults interacting with kids, teaching them about different crafts and other things that were all related to some type of Bible lesson. And that can't happen if it's just a big old room, you know, like it's a lot easier to be able to have quality interactions if you make the space for it. So
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an interesting topic to any of you guys when it comes to just actually walking through specific like VBS logistics of why we do what we do with our VBS. But, you know, if it is, let us know, and that might be a topic we cover at another time. So now let's pivot. Let's talk about getting volunteers.
Okay, you'll notice each prop is in a different section. We have a grass section, we have the flower section. You'll see the trees on the floor in one section. This was all on purpose. For those who can relate to people who are OCD about organization, I am a fan. I am one of those. That's just who I am. And trust me, if you make things organized and in stations, it will just make everything a lot easier for when workers come in. If everything is spread about and it's not organized or it's not separate from certain projects, you will have people getting confused, painting the wrong thing in the wrong color. You'll notice that I kept the paint in all one central location. And if I needed something painted a specific color, or if it included more than one color, I kept all those paints with that project. So I had all the flower colors in one area and the grass in one, and so on. I just want to kind of drive it home, keep everything in its own section. And also, I think there were some flower petals here in the back. Have chairs accessible. There's going to be a lot of people that want to help that can't stand for a long time.
For sure. We had a good amount of help from people who definitely
older people in the age group.
Who were so generous with their time during the day. You know, and that's huge. So I'm going to point out something that I think is important to think about, because you and I had some of these debates when it came to how many working sessions we should offer people as choices. You know, so how do you feel now about that philosophy of less is more?
Because I'll give you a comparison here. My what I thought was ideal for helpers coming, because I kind of wanted to make it where it was open for whenever you're available, just come by. But again, if you give people too many options, they're likely not to come at all, because they keep thinking that, oh, I'll just come tomorrow, or no, I'll put it off again tomorrow, or I'll put it off again tomorrow, and they don't come. But if you put it down to one night for so many hours. We even offered pizza to get them to come.
Yeah, yep.
And everyone showed up. And it was good to have both, I think, because I was able to utilize our church's internet, CCB, and send out a message to everyone in kids ministry, bus ministry.
Yep.
And they all got the message that, hey, the doors are open. I'll be here during the day if you have time. But then, a lot of people work. And like we said, during the day, we had a lot of older age group come and help, and we're very generous about helping me with things that,
or teens that weren't going to school,
because it was in the summer.
Yeah. Yes. So it was really cool just that there was a blend of people. So something I'll chime in on here, right, is you and I did debate and discuss about this because you originally were leaning toward, we'll offer all these times. And I bumped into this a lot of times where I have the same exact discussion. But I really believe that it's very important that you do two things when you're trying to get volunteers there. Limit the number of choices. Right. Give them at most probably 2, maybe 3 choices. I really think 2 is better than 3,
especially
honestly.
If your group's large. Like ours, we had, I don't know how many people come out. I mean, good 40 people at least.
And so let me explain how I sold it, right? Basically in working with all of the bus team in Sunday school, I was pushing very hard. It's like, okay, these are our options. How many people are going to be able to come to this, right? And one of the things that I think is really important is how you run things will become your brand for your ministry, right? Oh, yeah. How is your brand recognized, right? Because if you are just starting out, don't be upset if only 5 people show up, right? When 30 could have. Or don't be upset if only 3 people show up if 10 could have, right? It's okay. If you're just starting out, just take it as a win, right? But understand that if you knock it out of the park, if you do things like, have a little food for them, right? Okay, you don't want to be spraying for pizza. I don't know if you had a Little Caesars near you, but come on, $5 for pizza, you can't lose. Can't lose, right? But, slice up some watermelon, anything to be hospitable. And also, if you're very organized, because what are the things that drive people crazy when they volunteer? It's if they feel like they showed up and nobody's telling them what to do, you don't want them to ever walk away being like, man, I wasted my time, right? Why was I there? And I felt like, Audrey, that made me so happy to see that, right? Because for me as a leader, my reputation's on the line because I'm pushing everybody to get over here to do this, right? And that diminishes my word there if it's like, okay, everybody, let's do this. True. And then there's 10 people standing around. Nobody knows what to do. And we didn't see that. You'll see people saw, okay, well, there's 5 people at the grass. Okay, cool. I'll go work on the trees. Or we had a ton of people work on the vines. There were people so there was a lot of stuff where, if you can be able to quarterback and walk around and make sure everybody has a job, chances are year after year, you're only going to get more volunteers, not less.
Yeah.
Right. And also, to combat what people are thinking about, it's like, oh, well, I want to be extremely flexible for people. Don't worry about it. Because here's the thing. Okay. The people that you're trying to be flexible for, who are going to come at all kinds of crazy times, whenever, they're going to come at crazy times anyway.
Right.
But you're going to paralyze the people that are only going to come 1 or 2 times if you give them too many choices. Right. So it's much better to just come on really strong with, hey, here's option A and option B. These are the times that we're going to do it. Let's all get together.
And we got a lot done.
Yeah. And it's this is going to be exciting. And that concept of that, your brand, if you're running VBS and you're going to run VBS for multiple years, your brand is going to grow. When people in the church hear, it's like, hey, VBS is coming again, they will remember. It's like, man, that was so organized last year. I loved it. I had so much fun. We actually had fun decorating together. The event just felt so meaningful, and it'll get easier and easier to be able to get volunteers.
Yeah, I will throw into the more people you have helping with the actual set, I think the more morale you build for when the event time comes.
That's so
I
true.
really felt like this year we've had the most volunteers across the board.
Totally.
Over all the VBS events that we've done. And I really felt like throughout the event, there was like this happy feeling where people felt like, yeah, I contributed to this set.
No, I made this flower.
You know,
like
I made
totally.
the flower,
Totally.
or I made the vines that are hanging, and they look so good.
Yeah.
And I want to throw in, if you're a leader of, you know, a project such as this, for someone like I threw in, if you're a OCD person, you have to make sure everything is so organized and perfect all the time. That was something I had to let go as a perfectionist. I'll just put it at that. I can be a total perfectionist sometimes, that it actually hinders a project from moving forward because it has to be a certain way, or it has to be done a certain way. And with all the stations being how they were, it allowed people to kind of make things the way that they think it should be made. Like we pointed out with the flowers, every flower came out different, and that's what we wanted. You know, if it was just me, you know, I could have made everyone different, but it would take me double the time, and it wouldn't mean
for the
much.
amount of flowers that we made.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, right? Like with some of those pictures that you saw, there's no way Audrey could have done all that stuff herself, or at least it would not have been right to allow her to do that stuff. Right. You know, so really think about, you know, if you're helping with decorations or you're in charge of VBS, the more you invest your mind into thinking about how to plug people in, the cooler the event is going to be overall. And I think that's something that people really don't think about enough when they're trying to organize events like this. Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw in, you know, don't be afraid to just let people jump in and put their hands all over things and get their hands dirty and paint and, you know, mess things up. I mean, there was some things that in my head, I wasn't thinking it would come out that way, but in the end, it looked perfect the way that it was. I couldn't have thought of anything looking better than how it did.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So with that, we're going to have to wrap up soon, actually. But let me ask you this. What were some places that you went for inspirations? Because this stuff was not purely group stuff. Right. You know, you were not limited to just what came in the group curriculum. And for everybody out there that uses the Word of Flame stuff, they've got cool decoration ideas. You know, some of their ideas are pretty cool. But we have the internet. There's so many options out there. So what advice do you have for people? Where did you fish for
the main website was Pinterest. Absolutely Pinterest. I found the octopus on there. I found, I think, the water bottle flowers on there, the jellyfish. And we saw them on Pinterest, and we actually kind of came up with our own spin on them. And I've actually been wanting to create a board on my Pinterest for the VBS decorations that we've done, because not everything is on Pinterest, even though we did find most of it on there. I thank those people that pinned their ideas on Pinterest, because that's how I found out about them. So I'll do my best. If you're interested, I don't know if there's a way for them to respond. You know, I can post everything on Pinterest and even give a rundown of certain projects, how we made them and what steps to do. And what
I think we should just do that. I think we should just do that because, well, actually, let me ask you this. I think this is important. What did you do to find those things? Because sometimes people are like, okay, I'm on Pinterest, and then they don't know what to do, right?
I mean, if you don't know how to utilize Pinterest, there's a search bar on Pinterest. I think the main thing I typed in for the wild animals was the acronym VBS, and then I would put in wild animals, and then I kind of, if that didn't bring up enough, I would just type in specific things, lantern jellyfish, and all these things would pop up.
Totally.
Yeah. Once I found one thing and it was only one of that project, I would go back and search it specifically in the search bar, and then usually more would pop up. So I would type in water bottle flowers, and then a lot more came up than just the one picture I found. And then if you're public on Pinterest, I'll throw this out there, make a board for the ideas that you have. And if you have a team you're working with, show them that board so they get a vision of what you're seeing and what you want to create. And then they'll understand, oh, that's what that's supposed to look like. I mean, when I showed people the jellyfish versus explaining it to them, they were really confused. And when I showed them the picture, they just ran with it. And it was awesome because they knew exactly what it was supposed to look like. And then they gave their own spin on it.
Yeah.
Another, just Google, good old Google. I did tons of research. Type in VBS wild animals and a lot of things will usually come up. I mean, even forums or people that have done it in the past will post their own pictures and even their own projects that they've done. And I even went on Group and utilized their website and their ideas and even suggestions for substitutes if I couldn't afford some of their props. So it was one of the main ones. Yeah.
You know, I think Pinterest is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how many apostolic pinners there are, but it'd be great if there was a way for, apostolic pinners to unite, right? Because I am so curious what other things people are finding. And I'll be frank, I was very biased against Pinterest for a while. I just thought that was like a lady thing, where it's like, it's all, Pinterest is all like, like my hairstyle and like shoes and stuff, right? I am so wrong. I was so wrong because I have found that there's incredible stuff. I'm finding object lessons on Pinterest. I am finding, like science experiments on Pinterest. Something else that's really cool is maybe like, gifts for members of your team, ideas like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have never thought of this stuff. Right. So I just want to make sure that if you have never dived into Pinterest, trust me, I don't work for Pinterest. I'm not getting any money for saying this, neither is she. But it's a really cool resource.
Yes, it really helps. I mean, something way off the subject, but I'm an event planner on the side, and Pinterest helps me so much. I mean, I can get so many ideas just if I want a certain theme for an event, and even for your classrooms. If, again, your theme is underwater, you'll find so many different things on Pinterest that may not even be related to VBS, but they'll go well with your classroom. And like he said, object lessons, it's very, very, I don't know how to explain it. It's just a good resource. It really is. And it's free. You don't have to pay for anything to sign up. I think you can search in there and not have an account, but I think it only lets you do so much, and then it will say you need to create an account. Yeah,
just get an account. Like, because you got nothing to lose from it. And on top of that, when you get an account, it'd be great if you let us know here at Next Level Kidmin about your account so that we can all connect, because it'd be awesome to start to pool together all the resources of all the things that we find. The internet is huge, so if you're finding cool object lessons, if you're finding cool decoration ideas, let's collaborate. Let's get together and start to share all these different boards that we're pinning, because there's no way everybody can find them. And the whole mission and spirit of Next Level Kidmin is that we're trying to work smarter and faster together, because it's not a scarcity problem. There's too many great ideas. And what we're trying to do is filter them through an apostolic mindset, right? Because not every idea is a good idea, right? Like, it needs to actually be something that we feel comfortable based on our beliefs and the things that are right. Like, not every object lesson is going to be something that we want to use in an apostolic classroom. Not every decoration is something that we're going to be crazy about, because it may have references to things that we're not cool with.
I mean, I think there's even things we didn't use that group did for decorating. And I even think when we had our meeting, there were some lessons we didn't teach because it just didn't quite flow with our beliefs, as you said.
Yeah. So I strongly encourage people that let's start to network together and really start to pool the things that we think are great, because if there are 5 object lessons that I find and that you find, we both now have 10, and we saved each other a lot of time, right? Never mind all the other things, decorations, everything else. So you'll be able to find the Next Level Kidmin Pinterest account at Next Level Kidmin on Pinterest. Also, we're going to wrap up now with that. Audrey, if they wanted to contact you, they can reach you at audrey@audreynicoledesign.com, right?
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
So as Audrey mentioned, she also is Audrey at Audrey Nicole Design. So she does awesome stuff. I'm just gonna make a plug for her.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, she is so creative with these things. And, you know, on top of that, if you're looking for some really awesome things like acrylics for like around the house or some event or other things like that, check her out. She's got some really great stuff. And she, you know, if you got some questions, would that be fair that they contact you through questions there? So, you know, based on stuff that you saw here, if you got some questions where you might want her to clarify, give her a shout at audrey@audreynicoledesign.com and check out her site, audreynicoledesign.com.
Yes.
And so with that, we look forward to interacting with you guys. Sorry that we ran out of time here on really going any further and trying to get into a big Q&A session. But we hope you found this helpful. Don't let the discussion stop here. Feel free to ping Next Level Kidmin in the contact form or soon in the forums that we're about to release with any of the questions that you might have. We're here to help, and we're here to grow together. So, you know, we're doing stuff, but I don't think what we know is the be all and end all. So we want to hear from you guys too.
Yeah,
you know, what cool things are working for you, because we are not above taking ideas. Like, if anything,
we can learn from you, promise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I am always starving for more ideas, because I think, you know, there's so many cool things yet to know about how to really be effective in children's ministry and really do the best to be able to get the message out to these kids and impact them.
Absolutely.
So with that, thank you everybody for joining us. Hope you had a great time.
Thank you.
And get in touch. Let us know anything we can do, and have yourselves a great night. Take care, everybody. If you like this video, make sure to click subscribe so that you can stay in the loop for more Kidmin tips, tricks, and ideas. See you in the next video. Subscribe.